All right. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the quarterly community showcase for OCL. We are excited to introduce a new squad model that we've been talking about for a few months. So if you've been participating in some of the meetings, you'll have heard a little bit about this already. And also do some of our usual just an update on new features that have been released in the tools. And we also usually like to have someone in the community, the OCL community, present on their implementation, and we're continue to be interested in that. So if you would like to present some of your work with OCL on one of these calls in the future, please reach out. We'd love to highlight your work. And so I think you could go and move to the next slide. I think we'll jump right in.
All right. Sounds good. And I did want to add this one in, a fun new little thing that we can be doing, a little community shout out, because we actually have a community member, Lynn, also known as Forrest on OCL Chat. Lynn has been very active on OCL Chat and has not only been asking great questions, but also has been helping other community members on their questions. And actually, one thing I really appreciated, and you can kind of see it here in this right screenshot, Lynn was presenting when she had a bug or an issue. Once it was worked out, started documenting, oh, okay, here is where it was failing, and then here is what I did to make it actually work. So wanted to give a shout out there, doing some really good work. And actually, even Lynn even did a pull request for internationalization of OCL in the Chinese language. So just wanted to give this shout out to Lynn. Congratulations and welcome to the community. So, okay. And then we've got the OCL squad model. And sorry, John, did you want to go with this one, or I can go ahead?
Sure. Yeah. So the squad model, we actually learned this model from the OpenMRS community. So if you're familiar with the OpenMRS community, you know this very well. They structure their community in two ways. They have two types of groups. One is squads and one is teams. A team is thematic and topical. It might be meeting for years. They're not necessarily being structured around specific outputs, and whereas a squad is designed to be maybe shorter lived, and it's focused on a specific output and or goal, and they are entirely community driven and led, and they're self-organized in that way. So given for a number of reasons, the OCL community has decided that we want to shift in this direction. And so we historically have had architecture and dev calls and a couple of other calls. And we are actually replacing those calls now with our squad model, and where the weekly or recurring calls will be centered around self-organized squads. And then we'll still have a couple of recurring meetings that are not, like we have a platform meeting, for example, that's focused on sustaining the OCL Online platform, and so that isn't just a one-time goal. So we do have some of the squad leaders on the call today, so we're going to go through the initial set of squads that we are launching. So you can jump to the next slide. So how do squads work? There's I mentioned a couple of these things already. One is that a squad is self-organized, they're autonomous, and that means they determine the schedule and the cadence for when they meet. Documentation, project management, we do have a model that you could use. We use running notes in Google Docs. We use GitHub for tickets and tracking projects. But if some of our squads, though, are collaborating with other communities like OpenMRS and CL, and those communities may have their own methods for project management and documentation. So that again, the group gets to decide what their approach is going to be, as long as they make sure that that documentation and PM is occurring. Um, each group has a squad lead, at least one, or maybe co-leads, and these are people who've raised their hand to and volunteered to provide some leadership around that squad and to help organize it, and are often actively engaged in the work of that squad. They need to have a clear goal and an objective for why are we meeting, why are we taking people's valuable time every week or every 2 weeks to meet and discuss, and what's the expected output. The and we want just flexible and agile. That really, because we don't expect that squads are going to be as long lived, because they're focused on specific outputs. Once that output is achieved, then you might shift and go in a different direction. Maybe that squad disbands, or maybe it decides, okay, now we're going to work on the next goal and would need. And then finally, coordination. This call here right now is going to be our platform for coordination of these squads, where squad leaders or contributors will be able to come here, present to the community the work that they're doing, and updates on their progress towards those outputs. And then as needed, we'll start to provide other opportunities outside the community showcase for them. So next slide. So we're starting with these 5 squads, and these are hopefully familiar to you for people who've been involved in OCL for a while. So the first one is around the term browser v3 launch, and the goal for that is launching the next generation of the term browser built for these 2 specific personas, the terminology consumer and authors. And so you can see there's a squad title, and then there's a goal, and each one is like this. So because we are going to walk through each one of these, I won't focus on the goal right now. We'll have the squad leads can mention what the goals are for the group. But so there's the term browser v3 squad, there's the OCL Fire squad, the Mapper squad, which is focused on tooling for terminology mapping, content squad, and this is a cross a collaborative one where we are partnering with OpenMRS and CL, that it's trying to proactively ensure that terminology content that's needed by our community is available in OCL Online and available for deployment in local instances. And then finally, the OCL for OpenMRS squad, and this one has existed for a long time, and obviously is a collaboration with the OpenMRS community and has been hosted by them for many years. And so we're really excited to keep that one moving even along with this new structure. So next slide. And so we do have leads that have volunteered to help coordinate these squads for most of these. And so Joe Amlung on the call now is leading the term browser v3.1. Italo Macedo is leading the Fire squad. The Mapper squad is being led by Michael Bontes with Maduro, and Andy Cantor, who I don't believe is on the call today, is leading the content squad. The OCL for OpenMRS squad has been meeting for several years. We don't have a formal lead for that at this time, but there's a lot of people who are helping move and coordinate that group. So we'll see how that one develops. So I think maybe there's one more overview slide for this. Yes. So you're going to hear now from people who are on the call about these individual squads, but what I want everybody who's watching this to think about is, well, can you join a squad? And the answer is an absolute yes. These squads are open to community members, and and you might be wondering, like, well, I don't know if my skills overlap. And for the most part, if you are interested in contributing, there's likely going to be a role available for you on a squad. Clearly, if you're a software developer, a business analyst, designer, we need project managers, testers, implementers. So if and there might be some skills outside of that list too. But if you're interested, I encourage you to reach out. You can talk to the squad lead or me and or Joe or others in the OCL community to ask like what's needed, what kind of work is happening, and how could I fit in. So next slide. And yeah, and like we said, all squad calls are open, and please do reach out if you're interested in getting involved. There is a blog post to that QR code and the link there. It will give you a lot of this information that we're talking through today, and then the our new community site that'll be up soon will be the home where you can get the most up-to-date information once that is available. So, okay, I think with that, Joe, maybe hand it over to you to we'll go through each of these squads and oh maybe you can talk to the project approach and then kick us off with the TBV3 squad.
Yep, absolutely. In order to keep a kind of decentralized project management, meaning each squad can autonomously manage their own projects and the tickets underneath it and things like that, we do have our OCL, our projects that are on our Open Concept Lab GitHub. They're easy to get to, and everybody should be able to see them, understand kind of our order of operations for each of these squads and what tickets are assigned to them. And of course, this is a great place to look at what are upcoming priorities, what can I contribute the most to, what am I most interested in. And so we highly recommend looking up at our projects and seeing what you are able to take on or your team or whomever. So starting with the Term Browser version 3 squad, this is our TBV3 squad, and our goal, as we said, is to launch the TBV3 for two particular personas, the terminology consumer persona and the terminology author persona. We've got links to our both our project on GitHub, and then we also do our weekly running notes for every Tuesday. And so far this quarter, it's been particularly me, Sunny, and John who've been working on this, but we are hoping to expand that and see more people in there, especially as we are releasing new functionality on our V3 test environment. So just to give you a couple of examples of things that we've been working on lately, our current priority has been repo creation. Basically, the idea of when you are ready to start creating a new repository, how are we going to go about doing that in a quick and intuitive way? For many of you, you've probably already done the current workflow of starting a fresh new repo, but also there's going to be examples where you are wanting to quote unquote fork an existing repo version, starting with a version of a repo that maybe you already manage, or you see a repo that somebody else manages and you would like to start with that as a base rather than starting fresh. Or if you're somebody who perhaps has file resources, who has other content, maybe in another server or another location, you can also load this content via URL, via file, etc. So we're currently working on getting that workflow up and running so that you can go ahead and get started with making your new content. The next priority that is coming up is going to be references and expansions. We have certainly heard from the community that this model can be confusing. It's very powerful, but it can also be very confusing for newer users who are just getting started. We show here on the right an example of a design made by actually Paul Adams, who's on the call right now. This is just to show how we're trying to make references more clear for our users so that they can see what really is making up their collections and their collection-based content in here. So we're focusing on steps that you may already be familiar with, like adding to collection with the ability to select whether or not you'll cascade. Some of you might have used a create references option within the repo itself, Or of course, we want to do maybe something more fire style that's doing more includes and excludes. So these are all things that we're aiming to focus on in the very near future. And again, if this is anything that's of interest to you, I do encourage you to reach out. We would love to engage people to try out this new functionality and give us tips on what would make this more clear for users. All right. With that, Michael, can I throw it to you for the Mapper Squad?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Joe. So I can give a quick update about the OCL Mapper squad. The goal of this squad is really to develop the tool that will help us to match and map any existing terms that we are working with against international standards or interface terminology like CL, or even like existing concepts or terms that we might have in our organizations. Um, so the goal and the timeline that we have within this, actually it's a 4 months MVP that we have. So starting in February, and we are aiming for a beta release in early Q3 25. And the goal of this MVP is to have a UI and an API that is available for everyone to match, to find and match the terms. So far we have the V1 of that working. So the UI is available, well, is in testing but available. We also have the API being built by Sunny. And we are kind of in the middle of the MVP, and these days really benchmarking and testing the V1 that we have. So we have tests being done with Andy from Ciel on matching the terms that he has against other international standards like ICD and ICD 11. We also have some tests being done with Doctors Without Borders, so MSF, with metadata and forms, especially for a project in Iraq. So it's a maternity, and we are actually matching clinical forms against standards and existing concepts in the organization. So this way, we don't create more concepts that what exist already in the organization, and also we make sure to map those concepts against the international ones, especially with the help of TL. And then we also have tests being done with a small rural hospital in Burundi called Ubuntu Village of Life. It's a small hospital where they don't have resources like terminologists or medical referent available to map their content. And so the tool so far has been really, really helpful for them. They actually mapped almost 2,000 terms for procedures, lab tests, and other metadata in just less than 2 days. So the semantic search here in the mapper tool and the AI behind really, really helped them. So we can already see some of the impact of the tool. And the accuracy of the mapper is about 60 to 70% in the top 3 results. So we can see here in the UI, we have the terms that we are looking for. On the other side, on the right panel, you can see the candidates. And so the team reviewing the content can decide, okay, this is the right one, I will map it, and go through the content that they have. So they can upload a spreadsheet with their forms, they can upload a spreadsheet with their clinical terms, metadata, anything that they want to map against the international or existing concepts. And then at the end, they can download that file and implement in their system. Also, what is next for us on the squad is to, of course, refine the confidence and the scoring mechanism that we have for the matching results to keep improving the quality of the results and also improving the percentage of accurate matches we have. Getting closer and closer to like 80%, 90% of good matches in the top 3 suggested. Another next step also is to improve the UX itself. So as you can see here in the small screenshot, the idea is to work a lot with the testing users that we have these weeks and improve the UX for them to save even more time and being even more comfortable with the UI. So that's another priority. And yeah, I'd say those are really the two main thing right now. Yeah, with like I said, with the beta release planned for Q3 25. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out on the OCL Slack channel or join the weekly squad call that we have every Thursday at 8 a.m. East time. And also wanted to give many thanks to the OCL and the squad teams working on this. Thank you so much. Oh, if you are interested to see a bit more context on how we use this and also the impact that it has directly on the digitization project and the implementations, here's the link to a small video that was presented last week at the OpenMRS community showcase. And so a first part of the video will give you some context on why it is important to map the content, what we've done in the last month, and also a small demo of the OCL mapper itself. So if you're interested, please take a look. And of course, just while we are talking about it really quick, mapping all the terms that we have is so important for, as listed here, being able to make analytics on the observations or anything we have in the implementations. Of course, the reusability of, for example, the clinical forms. If I'm with MSF, you're someone else like Ellen Ball is at PIH, we can share and reuse clinical forms between us using mappings, no matter the UUIDs that we have in our implementation. So I can have MSF123, she has PH123. If we have the same mapping together, we can first reuse the clinical forms that we have between us. So no need to duplicate the work, but also, of course, being able to analyze the data more easily. So it's also a big plus for the interoperability. And it also helps a lot for the development we see these days around clinical decision support. So just to highlight a few benefits of mapping the terms and concepts also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. This is a really, really good update. And I actually even saw in the chat that we have a couple of terminologists that are here that are happy with the module. I do want to try to give all the squads their time before we get too much into discussion, but I might ask more questions about that because we'd love to hear from users in the community. But first, let's go ahead and jump to our next squad call. And Italo, it's actually your time. Are you okay to talk for this?
Sure. So basically, we have actually two initiatives, right, that we're going to work on. One of them I am going to implement, which is a fully compliant terminology service that we are going to implement, which is going to basically, you're going to be able to do all of the things related to FHIR that you expect. For instance, if you want to author an implementation guide and you want to use your the sources and collections that you have on your OCL instance to author this implementation guide. So the idea is to have a FHIR terminology service that is fully compliant and it's capable of implementing all the operations that the FHIR IG publisher expects. And we're going to take a different approach for this terminology service. It's going to be we're going to use OCL's API. We're not going to take the approach that we did before, which was to get the data from the database. We're going to use OCL API to implement that fire facade, and it's going to be basically a logical model between fire resources from the terminology module, and we're going to have a mapping from the resources that we have on R4 to all the logical models that we have on OCL for sources, collections, references, and so on. And the idea is to have a fire terminology service that can do all those things that I mentioned, and also it can expand value sets in runtime and do other things. Get the definition for concepts, and it's in the concept definitions, the full specification of these concepts in several languages and so on, because these are the things that we expect to do when, at least in situations where, in scenarios where we are, like for me, I work with the Ministry of Health from Brazil, so all of the implementation guides that we have are in the realm of Brazil, in Brazil's jurisdiction. So all of the code systems and value sets, they need the display element of the codable concept in Portuguese. So when you alter an implementation guide and you set the implementation guide to that specific realm or jurisdiction, it's going to expect that the concepts have their full specifications, definitions, and so on in Brazilian Portuguese. So the idea is to have a fire terminology service that does that. In addition to it, we are also going to implement some caching features, so the whole process is more quick, and it doesn't slow down the authoring process much, because some sources can be really big and you need to load them prior to the authoring process. So the idea is to implement that as well in the fire terminology service. John, you want to mention addition anything on top of that? Patrick?
Thanks, Italo. I did just update the description on this for the squad goal, so apologies that was not the correct goal on the slide here. Joe, if you refresh or restart your slide presentation, I think it should update it. There you go. Perfect. So, but thank you, Italo, for volunteering to help coordinate and lead this squad, and for the effort that you're putting into this. And I think the only thing I want to mention is there is a lot of history in terms of OCL in the community working to support fire. And what we have realized is that we actually started with the Happy Fire Plane server many years ago, and then shifted that strategy to simplify our tech stack, because that's based on Java. And so that we made a tech stack decision to simplify that and just, integrate, provide some of the core fire capabilities directly in OCL's API using Python Django. And, while we do and will continue to maintain some basic support, it's really SVCM support that we're providing, which is, I've got content in OCL and give it to me in a fire representation. And we're going to continue to maintain that and support it. But obviously, those that are doing real fire implementation work need more capabilities. And that's something that, again, introducing the Happy Fire Plane server as a facade to integrate and expose OCL's core capabilities will offer a lot of advantages and be easier for us to maintain at this time. So we're really, really excited and appreciate Italo taking a lead on this. and Brazil and their use of OCL is really going to be a good example of this functioning in a production enterprise level implementation. So I think that's it. Thank you.
I would like to mention as well, John, that we're going to implement a validation chain within the terminology service, because it was something that we heard from, I mean, some of the folks from HL7, that a validation service in the terminology service is also important. So that terminology service is also going to have a validation service, which is different from the validation service that OCL already has, because it's going to consider in its validation chain all of the sources and collections, code systems and value sets that are in your OCL instance. So there's that.
All right, great. Thank you both so much. This is really appreciated, and really, really exciting work to be formulating OCL's FIRE approach and making it better than ever. So we'll go on to the next squad here. This is the OCL Content Squad, and unfortunately, Andy Cantor could not be here for this meeting today. Although I think that this is a newer squad that we are still, to some extent, formulating the goals for. But as John mentioned before, the kind of main idea is understanding where the needs are among the community and making sure that the content in OCL is up to the job to be able to meet their needs. At the moment, some of the things we have more control over are CL publications. Of course, that is something that Andy himself is releasing and managing with the help of Felipe here. And for just as an example, to meet the needs of users for ICD-11, ICD-11 mappings to CL concepts are being added into the CL terminology itself. So this is just an example of how the squad is trying to be receptive and attentive to what the community needs and meet them where they're at. In that vein, the latest CL release was done this month. It's April 2025. As per usual, adding in new concepts for partners in health and for other organizations and use cases as requested. And ICD-11 mappings, there are over 2,000 additional mappings since the last time. And also for those who need drug codes, WHOATC mappings are in here also. Another important piece of news is that CL has officially been designated as a digital global good by Digital Square, which is a very, very exciting designation. It gives CL some credit and more credibility among the global community because of how community focused its management and ownership is. And this, of course, is in addition to its digital public good designation from the Digital Public Good Alliance. If you want to learn more, there are, of course, the content is in OCL itself, and also there's release notes on OpenMRS Talk.
And Joe, could I add a comment on the content one? And so I think the idea behind this squad is that there are a couple of places to go right now if you are in a CL user or an OpenMRS implementer or an OCL implementer to go have discussions about content. But that's great. It's answer that those forums are addressing part of the community's need. The part of the need that we are not addressing right now that we would like to be proactive about is ecosystem level solutions for ensuring content that is important to implementers is available in formats that are useful. And so let me give a quick example of that is, so Joe already started to talk about ICD-11. Much of the world is transitioning now to ICD-11 for coding some of the data and data capture and data reporting in their health systems. And if you are an OpenMRS or OCL user or a CL adopter, what's an appropriate solution for that? What tools and what content is available to support you in that? What guidance is available? And right now there's a little bit, but there's not an ecosystem solution, ecosystem level solution or guidance available to support implementers yet. So that's what we would like to make sure is there. So Andy and Felipe are leading an effort right now to map 100% of relevant CL content to ICD-11 to serve as a bridge for those that are translating their current coding systems to ICD-11. And that's, again, that's not the entire solution. That's one piece of the puzzle. But another layer of that would be OCL in general is trying to make open licensed terminology content easily available to implementers. And if you, right now, if you want to use a particular code system, you generally need to do the work yourself. You need to know where to find it. You can package it up and then import it potentially into your local instance. But what if OCL Online already has a lot of that content? Could it act as a syndication service for local instances of OCL to keep your local content up to date and to simplify that process? It could eliminate a tremendous amount of manual labor if we could do that in an easy way. So those are the types of questions or challenges that I think this squad is going to work toward. And the last thing is, I just want to be clear, this will actually be a joint squad. This is OCL, CL, and OpenMRS, and possibly others will join as well.
All right, cool. And we do have just one last squad. John, will you do this one too?
Absolutely.
If not, I can go ahead. Okay, thank you.
So the OCL for OpenMRS squad, this has been an amazing group that has been meeting for about 5 years now. The list of contributors could be much larger than this, and it's evolved a lot over the years. As we've been rolling out this new squad model, we wanted to take that as an opportunity to maybe revitalize and refine the work that this squad was doing. And so in the spirit of the squad model, we want to have clear outputs and that it's working toward. So over the last couple of months, we've been, as a group, trying to define what are those goals then that we're going to work toward. The primary goal right now is, as TB, the term browser version 3 is being developed, we are a couple of months away from it being ready for the OpenMRS community to experiment and test, to do the user acceptance testing for dictionary management using the term browser. So that's going to be the primary focus this year, and to do that UAT and to make sure dictionary managers can do what they need in TBv3. But kind of looking ahead, there's a couple of things that we're working on in the meantime, and you can see them here. One is identifying concepts by their authoritative source and code. So this is if you're trying to use concepts in an OpenMRS implementation, historically you might reference that concept with UIDs, which is not a great transferable method. We want people to be able to instead reference them with the source code and the ID and the mnemonic, as you can see here in the example. But there's some updates to the workflow and the tooling, both on OpenMRS and OCL, to make that simple for people. And the second would be, what if you're using OCL to manage a large, complicated code system like CL? And there are some gaps in our functionality to support that. So right now, we are working to define the requirements to address those gaps so that Andy could manage CL directly in OCL. It's already used as the primary distribution channel for CL, but doing direct management could streamline that process a lot and reduce the manual effort, and of course allow others in the community to manage their own content in a more streamlined manner. This one is hosted by the OpenRS community. We're using a ticketing system, their OpenRS Jira, and the notes are on the OpenRS wiki that you can see there. Meets every Wednesday after this call, actually, and anybody is welcome to join.
All right. And that comes to the end of our squad updates. So this is, I want to give this call to action for everybody here and for everybody watching after the fact. There are certainly things that you're able to do next if you want to contribute to this community. Of course, taking on tickets at OCL's GitHub is always an option. We've got our projects link sitting here. Also wanted to give a plug for the OpenHIE Terminology Services call. That is happening this Friday. It's 9 a.m. Eastern. I forget what it is in other time zones, but this link here will be able to tell you more about it. This week in particular, we're setting priorities for the rest of the year, making sure that we are taking on the most important topics that terminology service implementers across the globe are trying to do. So I will be sure to give that link in the chat here, and please join us if you're able. Also, of course, join your favorite squad meetings. We already have given the squad leads. Just ask the lead for the call-in info. We absolutely love to have everybody here. Also, feel free to chat with us on OCL chat. And hey, maybe you'll get a shout out on the next showcase, just like Lynn did this time. And also for people who are looking to see us in person, we are going to be in Rwanda for OpenHIE 2025. Take a look at OpenHIE's website if you want to join us for that conference. We would love to see you all there. And that is the end of our slides in particular. I do want to open it up to the audience. Are there any questions or pieces of discussion you want to get into? Well, perhaps I can go ahead and call based on a previous comment. Italo, you'd said in the chat earlier that we have a couple terminologists that are here that are very happy with this module. I assume that's Beatrice and Jusara. I wanted to say hi and welcome you here. Have you all tried out the OCL mapper, at least in its test environment?
Not yet. Looking forward to do that, but we didn't try. Hi, everybody. Very nice seeing all the squads, and I'm very happy with what is being done with Fire. So we do need to map everything. So looking forward to test it.
Yeah, it's good news. So yeah, good news. And I didn't have the chance to try that, but we'll do in a short while. And then if we can contribute to some squad would be in the content. And I have a question. It's people are thinking about putting Snowmed City on that as a public good. I heard that this story. I don't know if it's a hoax. Can someone enlighten me?
So, John, this is certainly a content squad question here. Do you want to field that about our current state on SNOMED CT?
Yeah, hi, Jasara and Beatrice, and welcome. So the expert in using OCL with SNOMED CT, you actually know from Chile, is Marcelo. Is probably going to have the most experience in terms of 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 uh, of how that would look. But what I could say is that right now OCL it does have gaps in terms of full support for the SNOMED CT ontology. And there's, in terms of, could we represent the information model? Yes, but only if you use custom attributes and you build some custom logic around it. So that's not sufficient. We need to actually support the full SNOMED ontology. And then second is the query language ECL, and which is what makes SNOMED so powerful. And OCL does not have any capabilities around that right now. We did do some pieces that are really foundational. So you might know, like, our cascading capability or operator was the step one in being able to traverse the OCL information model as a hierarchy or ontology. And so you could use that, but again, you'd still have to build out all of the logic to do ECL type expressions on your own, which isn't a great model. So that's kind of where OCL is at today. I think if you want to represent just the content, there are methods, but if you want to leverage the ontology, and then I think there are pretty big gaps there right now that still need to be filled.
Okay, let's explain it sometime in the future. Or not. Because we are using now, we are beginning with smart guidelines, and we do need this complexity for that. So it's a gap that you have to work on that. Yeah, I know that's difficult to do, but I don't know, Italo could tell something about the API, the 5 API, something that could help us to integrate with with the Zoomacity snowstorm or something. I'm not a technical person. I don't know if it's possible, but you could do some with the technology service. Italo, can you, yeah. So, can you just say anything about that? Because it's one of our goals using the API, the Fire API. Italo?
What was the question?
Yes, about using SNOMED-CT. The implicit value set is something that you need for smart guidelines. And how could you put that in content in OCL?
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, usually what I would do is I would find a SNOMED distribution and load it into OCL, but there are other ways to do it as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll talk about that. You should talk about that, about what the possibilities that you're looking for to use SNOMED-CT content.
yes. The challenges that we face usually are when it comes to not just SNOMED, CT, but LOINC and ICPC2 is that's the thing that we always talk about. How can I make sure that distribution of SNOMED, LOINC, or it's a source of truth, it's a reliable source, it's an official distribution. But what we do here usually is we get a distribution of SNOMED and we load it into OCL using either OCL's API or OCL's bulk import and so on.
John was talking about the difficulty to represent the ontology in OCL today. The attributes, the profile, everything, the content model of SNOMED-CT is difficult to put that because this is a graph, is not they are not very sexy or flat technologies like we have now. So this is a problem that. But I was what I'm talking about is about that the story that is Nomad is also going to be a public good like in Chile one. It is something that is with OCL on it, John.
I think I should mention, John, that we have been working with Patrick in terms of adding properties and filters capabilities to OCL. So it's now that Yusara mentioned that the attributes are some are one of the barriers that we face off and we need to overcome. So now we expect that when you're importing your Nomad, Loink distribution, whatever, to your OCL instance, that you're capable of for your sources, defining filters and properties. And I think I should mention that they should be strongly typed, that they're not just text. But I think that's something that we're going to at least in the Fire Squad. I think that's something that Patrick is going to work on if I'm not sure. And I think that there's some capabilities that OCL has to work on for that matter. But it is expected in the future that when you load concepts in your source, that you can define profiles and add strongly type attributes to the concepts as well.
Yeah, that's right, Italo, and thanks for bringing that up. We would expect that as you do the Happy Fire plain server integration, that it's going to rely on OCL for the backend capabilities, and there are some gaps right now in OCL's capabilities for that. So one of them is code system properties and filters, and there are a couple others that we're defining, and we're going to put on a roadmap and figure out when and how those will be tackled. The code system properties and filters is fortunately one that a lot of those capabilities exist already, but haven't been packaged up in a way that could be used via Fire yet. So it's not as big of a gap as some other ones might be. Another example, though, just so you could kind of get the range of this, would be OCL can do value set expansions and has a few models for how to do that. Something OCL doesn't do, though, that Fire requires, if you're going to be a Fire terminology service, publishing service, is the on-the-fly, where the composed statement for a value set is included in the request itself for the expansion, and you can get the results. They're evaluated on the fly, and it's not persisted on the server. And we don't have any capability around that at the moment, but that would be a bigger gap that would need to be filled.
All right. Well, I wanted to give a thank you to everybody for the good discussion here and the important topics that we are covering on these calls. It's really good to be kicking off the squad model and to have so many good voices here today to talk through all of this. We're certainly moving more towards a model where the community is owning Open Concept Lab. And this is one of the many first steps to getting started on that. So thank you to everybody who spoke today, who gave their input, who presented and led their squad. Thank you to everybody, and we will see you on the next calls, if not sooner. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thanks,
Bye,
Joe.
bye,
Great to
bye.
see you all here.
Yeah, bye. Bye, everyone.